Hey, hello to you all, and welcome to a brand new series of videos for the Trash or Treasure channel. Now, I actually haven't got a name for this series of videos just yet, still struggling with that a little bit, but yeah, I did post on my community page and Twitter and Facebook and all that what you guys think it should be called, and I've had a few suggestions. I thought Trash or Treasure Scraps would have been pretty good, or somebody suggested maybe Scraps or Coins, something along those lines maybe, but yeah, if you do have a name for this kind of content, just let me know in the comments below and I'll have a look through it. So the reason I'm doing this in the first place is just because I've noticed the Trash or Treasure content is getting longer and longer, and my writing style has expanded over the years, so keeping up with content is just getting a little trickier to do. Like, the gaps between videos could go on for like a month or two. So to try something out, I'm just going to be making this shorter form content, roughly aiming between 5 to 10 minutes, but no more than 10. Just going in unscripted, but still making notes, and basically just giving some games a quick look whilst not giving it the full Trash or Treasure treatment. Maybe someday they will get a dedicated Trash or Treasure video to it, but probably not anytime soon. This will hopefully be good for games that have just come out, and my experience is fresh and I still have thoughts and feelings about some of the games. But yes, as I said, this is merely an experiment, and to the point I don't even have a name yet. Maybe Trash or Treasure Quick Looks is all I really need, but I don't know, something a bit more fancy would be nice if you guys can come up with any names. So today's subject is the 2023 remake of Dead Space, a complete overhaul of the 2008 classic for the 360, PC, and PS3. I didn't play the original Dead Space when it first came out. I wouldn't get it until my 14th birthday, which was around 2009, and that was when my parents finally trusted I could be responsible with M-rated games, so games like Dead Space and Gears of War were some of my first 18-rated games in the UK. But I remember really loving the original Dead Space, so much so that I did a few consecutive playthroughs of it and tried to get every achievement I could. I don't think I ever did, but I'm pretty sure I did come close in the 360. It was maybe a little short at the time. It was only about 6 to 8 hours, but it did its job and I loved every minute of it. Now, Dead Space 2 I actually did pick up when it first launched, but it actually took about a year for me to finish the second game. It was about twice the length of the original Dead Space, so I don't know if it was maybe that or if the game just wasn't as appealing to me, but after a while I was just thinking, Jesus Christ, we're going on for a while, aren't we? So after that, I didn't really bother with games like Dead Space Extraction or Dead Space 3. Dead Space Extraction I actually kind of wanted to play, but because I was a teenager with no income, I couldn't really buy it. But Dead Space 3 I've not heard very good things about, so I've kind of just been holding it off for as long as possible. But even still, I was pretty much on the Dead Space bandwagon, and I even watched that hour-and-a-half animated movie whose name escapes me. So when a remake of the original was announced, I was pretty hyped, but I originally wasn't going to get it at day one, mainly just because of the price and I wasn't sure if it was going to be worth it. I did end up pre-ordering the game on PC, mainly because they also offered Dead Space 2 on PC with it, so that was pretty much a game changer for me. But I actually haven't played the original Dead Space or Dead Space 2 in at least 10 years, so do forgive me if my memory's a little fuzzy, but I'll do my best to try and compare and contrast the remake to the original Dead Space. From what I could tell though, the remake is actually pretty faithful to the original. Like, there were a few times in this game that I was just thinking, oh yeah, I forgot they did this in the original. But obviously they've upped the graphics and presented the scenes in a slightly different way. It's not quite a shot-for-shot recreation, but it's pretty damn close, and fans of the original will definitely recognize certain moments. I should mention the graphics though, it looks friggin' incredible. Sure, 90% of the time it's dark as hell, but you can still pick out every little detail that's in the environments and also on Isaac's suit. Although if I were to nitpick, I would say that Isaac's suit was perhaps a little bit too shiny for all the chaos that goes on around there. I feel like the blood and guts should really be staining the armor, but again, that's just a small gripe. I also think the facial movements on characters are a little bit off, and that's mainly because every cutscene is in real time. So whenever you get an FMV video chat from one of your colleagues, that's usually why it looks a lot better. Again though, those are the only minor problems I do have with the graphics, and it does not stop the game from looking absolutely spectacular and absolutely scary too. We are thankfully back to the horror roots that Dead Space is well known for, which I'm sure some of you will be very pleased about, including myself. It's what made the original so special, and it's even scarier now than it was before. Dead Space 2 had hints of horror here and there, but it was definitely the aliens of the series and not so much like the first game where it was trying to replicate Alien, focusing a bit more on action and not so much scares. And that wasn't a bad thing at all, but perhaps a bit of the magic was lost after the first game. Probably still beats Dead Space 3 though, since from what I hear it gets rid of horror entirely. Dead Space could be pretty dark both thematically and literally, but man, the USG Ishimura really lowered the lighting budget on this one. There are numerous times where you can't see where you're going, and you never know when a necromorph is gonna pop out at any moment, especially since the intense music doesn't actually kick in until the camera notices a necromorph is already there. I've had plenty of occasions where I'm just minding my own business, exploring and picking up items, only to turn around and there's a necromorph right in front of my face and I'm panicking. I never look forward to moments where I have to turn off the lights in a circuit breaker because that was basically the equivalent of a dinner bell for the necromorphs. If there's one thing the Dead Space remake is really good at, it's making you feel jumpy, which doesn't usually happen to me in horror games, but they found a way. Doesn't help that the necromorphs are a little more resilient to your attacks this time. The gimmick with the Dead Space games was that the most effective way to kill the necromorphs are to hack off their limbs. Sure, you can shoot them normally, but you'd be wasting more ammo that way. Cutting off the limbs in the first two Dead Space games were perhaps a little bit too easy, so the remake basically increases their muscles tenfold, and I kinda like the little detail that the more you shoot them, the more skin peels off to signify how close you are to hacking off the limb. So if you wanted a little more challenge in your Dead Space games, I would say this one is pretty good for it. Not to say you can't make it a little easier on yourself though, since you can still upgrade your weapons via power nodes that you can either buy from the store or just find at certain points. And yeah, there's a lot to upgrade in this game. You're certainly not going to be able to do everything on your first run, especially since you can also buy armor to increase your defense for a pretty hefty fee. But yeah, upgrades work pretty much as well as you'd expect it to. Although my go-to weapon in the original game was the pulse rifle, but I couldn't really get the same results here. It was probably intentional to stop it from being too broken, and as I mentioned, the original game was pretty easy about hacking off the limbs. But oh well, the plasma cutter still does a pretty decent job. Like, this thing gets pretty deadly the more you upgrade it. Might be particularly useful for the hunter necromorph. This guy is a real bastard, constantly following you. But man, it was so satisfying when you finally got him. Honestly, in terms of issues with the gameplay, I don't really have that many, aside from maybe some smaller issues that don't really matter too much. I guess the voice acting will be one for starters. It's not bad, it's just kinda wooden. And after skimming through a long play of the original Dead Space to see how the acting was in that, I would say the original Dead Space was better in that aspect. Granted, I've never thought Dead Space games have had absolutely spectacular voice acting, but it felt a little more dull here. Again, not bad, just kinda dull. It should also be noted that Isaac does speak in this one, unlike the original, which you're either gonna love or hate. Me personally, I'm not really that fussed about it. I wasn't really that bothered when Dead Space 2 did it either. Silent protagonists were sort of a dying breed back in 2008, not so much in the JRPG genre. I don't think those are ever gonna die out, but it was feeling less common in Western games. Probably doesn't help that Isaac doesn't have the most fleshed out personality either. He's kinda bland. And late in the game you see a past video call between him and his girlfriend Nicole, and he just completely snaps at her for no reason, which kinda makes me like him less. I was kinda impressed that they did get the same voice actor of Isaac from Dead Space 2 onwards, and to be fair, his performance isn't bad, he's just not really given a lot to work with. The only time I would say the added voice to the original didn't really fit was during some pretty disturbing moments, and all Isaac can say is just, "Oh shit," or "What the hell," like he's a Twitch streamer reacting for the first time.
Isaac, what's your status? Do you have the captain's rig?
Fuck me! Ugh.
So there's that, but there was another part in the game I didn't really care for. Pretty late in the game, you have to get rid of this nuclear bomb, and there's a necromorph right there with an exploding hand, so you have to try and stop him from getting too close and exploding, otherwise the bomb will go off and you pretty much detonate the whole ship you're on. It was great for racking up the nerves, but it was pretty frustrating for gameplay, I thought. The footage you're seeing is also me playing the game on impossible mode, the hardest difficulty, where you only have one save slot and one life, so if you die, you have to start the whole game again. There are ways to circumvent this, mind you, like alt-tabbing or just going back to the main menu, but it still made me very anxious. That doesn't even compare though to probably the stupidest moment I think I've seen in a Dead Space game as of yet. So your boss comes across another necromorph off screen and traps him in an escape pod, where he then decides to launch it out into space because it's a former comrade of his and he wanted to pay respects. Hello, there's an escape pod right there. You could have gotten off the Ishimura right there and then, like you're constantly talking about, but you just wasted your opportunity. There's two of you there. Could you not have just opened the doors and blasted him away? Have you also not seen a space horror before? If you don't kill the threat there and then, it's gonna bite you in the ass really hard. And oh, whoops, look at what happens. Like, I could just not understand why they made this decision. It was so dumb. But yes, aside from those issues, I had a really good time with Dead Space, and it's kinda rekindled my love for the series. I'm sure by the time I finish recording this, I'll be back to Dead Space 2 as well, and who knows, I might even pick up Dead Space 3 while I'm at it. If you're in the mood to get scared and you're a fan of space horror, I would strongly recommend the remake. It's good fun. Honestly, not much more to say, it's just a damn solid game. Whether or not this will be a fresh new start for the Dead Space series, I can't really say, but I certainly hope it does come to that. I really want to get back into these games. But anyway, thank you very much for tuning into this short review, and I hope you'll enjoy seeing more when I eventually do them. Do let me know in the comments below what you think of this new format and what I could do to improve it. I'm hoping to release a new video, potentially every 2 or 3 weeks. I don't post a new Trash or Treasure video, just to basically quench any thirst that you guys might have until the new project comes out, basically. And with that said, I will see you for the next Trash or Treasure video, or maybe the next quick look video, who knows, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and take care of yourselves.